Hey folks, Roland Martin here. Hey, it's time for some spring cleaning. YouTubers, I'll tell you what, there's just a lot of things to do. Well, first of all, you look at these old plastic boxes like we have used for years. Well, look how opaque that's gotten. It's gotten so you can't see through the top. If I even put this thing in there, you wouldn't even hardly know what it was. You can't even see it because it's just so, it just got discolored. So I've now got brand new boxes. Okay, now, also, this has this rust control, these blue little compartment partitions are rust control agents, and so they're supposed to keep the rust from occurring on a spinnerbait, on a crankbait, on a frog, or whatever it is. So let's just take about 3 or 4 different kinds of lures and talk about getting ready for the next year, getting ready for the spring training. Okay, first of all, let's take a crankbait. Crankbaits are really a great thing in my repertoire of lures, but there's some issues here. You get a crankbait like this one. I just want to show you something. This particular crankbait was a little end that I used for years, and I caught a lot of fish on it. Then all of a sudden last year, it wasn't catching as many fish. It just kind of just went dead on me. Well, let me show you why. Okay, let me just take this caliper right now. Let's just take this caliper. And let's just put it on here and just get the width of this plug right there like this, okay? It's that wide, okay? Now, okay, let's take a brand new one. Take one that's brand new. This light one. It's another little end. Let's put it on that same set of calipers. Uh-oh. It's an 1/8 of an inch difference there. It's an 1/8 of an inch fatter. Why is that one, this older one, an 1/8 of an inch fatter than this newer one? Well, I'll tell you what, I live here in South Florida. In these boxes, if you lay them out in the sun, for example, on a hot day, the gases inside this plug, the air temperature gets up to 140, 150 degrees, the plastic gets kind of soft, and the air expands, and all of a sudden these plugs get bigger. Okay, when a plug gets bigger, what's going to happen? Well, it's going to change the action. It's going to have a different wobble. A thinner plug's going to wobble faster than a fat plug, or whatever, I'm not even sure. But it's going to float higher. This is going to displace more water, so it's not going to go as deep. This is going to go deeper. So there's a lot of issues here. So what am I going to do with this plug? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw it away. I'm going to take it right over there, throw it in the trash can. Because I want to have plugs that are exactly the same. Okay, let's take this next plug. Here's one here. Uh-oh. Now this plug here, let's get down to the depth. Okay, that's the width of the new plug. Okay, let's see if it fits on this one. Not even come close. It doesn't even come close. Not only that, it's expanded to the point it's cracked to finish. Look, I'd have to take my spiky paint and repaint the plug because it's expanded and also cracked the paint. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to throw it away. Hey, I know plugs are expensive, and there's ways to be frugal with the plugs. Now, one thing I do with plugs is that I take plugs and I clean them up. For example, here's a brand new little Bomber 6. Okay, here's another one that's way older. It's way older. I mic'd it out. It hadn't expanded any, so it's pretty much the same thing. I've taken this cleaner, this Gojo cleaner, I put it on a rag, and I cleaned it up. Okay, it made it a little bit lighter. Okay, but that can be done. I've taken these other plugs, and not only have I cleaned them, I've done one other thing. I'll put new hooks on them. Now, here's the deal. Let me just show you what I've done. Here's an original 6A bomber that I really like to do. But look at that plug, the older one. I've put that, well actually that's not a 6A. Here's a 6A, here's a bigger hook. Okay, I've taken this number 4 hook. No, this is a number 4. That's a number 4 hook. That's the new number 4. That's bigger than this number 6 hook. So what I do, I get these boxes of hooks, and this is a 4, and this is a 6, and I really have a big time fooling with this thing. I take the swivels and snaps and all that, and I put little O-rings. Here's what I do. I take a pair of clippers, and when I want to change the hook out, I just take the dikes and I just cut right through the O-ring and take the O-ring completely off. Just, it's gone. The hook I throw away, the busted up O-ring I throw away, and what I do is I get O-rings from Netcraft and other places, and they're different size O-rings. Here's a number 3 O-ring, and that's good for, that's about a 25-pound test O-ring, okay. Here's a number 2 O-ring, and that's about a 20-pound O-ring. Now, what that means is if you get rated O-rings, you want to throw, if I'm going to use that smaller O-ring on, say, this little plug here, and that's only a 20-pound test O-ring, well, guess what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to use lighter line. I'm not going to use heavy braid on this. I'm going to use, say, 10, 15-pound. In fact, that's what I throw it, and that's why I'd use a lighter weight O-ring. I would throw this little plug on, say, 8, 10, 12, maybe even 14-pound line. I'd probably not throw it anything over 14 because I want to get it deep and I want to have it with the right action. So I would purposely use this on fairly light line. If I'm using a great big plug or a bigger plug, and say I'm in some heavy reeds and heavy cover, I might say that take the next size bigger plug, and I might put a bigger O-ring. I'll put this number 3 size O-ring on that, and that number 3 size is rated, say, to 25 or 30 pound. Okay, now I could use some 20-pound line maybe, or even some lighter braid, up to say 30-pound braid. But again, you have to match your equipment to your line. That's so important to have rated swivels, rated O-rings, everything with a rating system, so that you don't get a weak link. You want to keep your line, keep all the components of the lure less than the line, or rather greater than the line. I'm sorry, greater than the line. Okay, so what I've done, I've gone in and I've replaced the hooks. That's one thing I've done. Okay, let's clean the plugs up with my Gojo. I got everything ready to go for the spring. I got them in nice clean boxes that are really, really precious and ready to go. And guess what? I'm ready to go fishing. So that's the crankbait deal. I've gone through all these plugs and I've cleaned them all up, and I'm ready to go. Let's get that thing put away. Done the same thing with the rattle traps. Are you talking about something that you have to look at? Okay, this rattle trap is a perfect example. See how flat that rattle trap is? Sometimes here in South Florida, you'll look at your rattle trap and it won't be quite that flat. It'll kind of bulge a little bit. I've thrown them all away that bulge. Hey, if they bulge, it means it's not going to have the same action. It means that it's not going to run exactly the same. So make sure your plugs are all identical. Take a pair of calipers and measure stuff and make sure that your plugs haven't gotten out of round. I want to show you an extreme example. Watch this. Look at this. Look at this plug. Now here's one. I was out fishing on a hot day. That's a little long A bomber, but look what the heat did to it. The heat just went crazy with it. It bent it up in a pretzel. I mean, you can't use that. That's not acceptable. It fattened it up. So the heat does crazy things to these plugs. So just be careful and look at all your best plug, your favorite plug. Make sure it hasn't gotten out of shape, and make sure it has good sharp hooks, and make sure the O-rings are good and strong. Okay, so that's crankbaits. Let's go now to my spinnerbait box. I've done something a little bit special on spinnerbaits. Spinnerbaits are nothing sacred. There's nothing really sacred about a spinnerbait. In other words, I make spinnerbaits. I've had the Roland Martin Big Bass spinnerbait for years, and that's been a big deal. But I make spinnerbaits. I come in, and that happens to be an old Roland Martin model right there that I've had with the real heavy-duty twisted wire, the big number 6 blade. That's something I built years ago. Okay, and I got big blades all over the place. Okay, so what I do when I spinnerbait, I'm going to do a whole big YouTube video on this, by the way. I go in and I buy spinner bodies for like $1. The thing costs about $1. Big heavy hook. That's a big heavy ½ ounce deal. I can now put spinner blades on this, and of course put the end of the, and then the skirts. Here's the other thing about skirts. Here's a skirt that was on one of them, and look what's happened. After just a year in that hot weather, the skirt is all falling apart. So we can throw that away. Okay, speaking of skirts, I have a skirt box with every kind of color skirt that there is, brand new, beautiful skirts, all silicone with nice rubber ties on them, all the different colors that you'd ever want in a skirt. And I can now switch around and put a skirt on for just a couple cents. I mean, these skirts aren't expensive. So I got that handy. My skirt thing's handy. When I come up to a spinnerbait and I'm looking at the water, and I'm going to do a whole big YouTube on this, I'll figure out what color skirt I want, I'll change it. I'll figure out what color head I want and what weight head I want, I'll change it. All these other types of blades that are on the shaft, I'll change them at will, because there's a way to do that. And then the blade itself, hey, I'll have them all rigged up with big swivels like this. I'll put them on when I need them, make my own spinnerbaits when I want them, and hey, I'm ready to go. But anyway, I'll make a whole big YouTube on that. But the point is, now that I have nice clear boxes and I have it all laid out, hey, isn't that handy? I got all my stuff right there and I can see exactly what I have. Okay, so that's spinnerbaits and that's crankbaits. Let's take a frog. This will be the last little spring cleanup that I can do on a frog. But there's a couple things to do with frogs. Number one, I called up Spro, and we had an issue with the frogs. The skirts would get all nasty. They'd just get all gunked up. So what Sid at Spro said, okay, take baby talcum powder or baby powder, and just put powder in on the frogs. It doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't hurt a thing. It just keeps the tails from getting all nasty. And that's the way to handle the tails. There's one other thing I do with a frog. Let me just show you real quick. This is an old Gary Milicevic trick. Gary is one of the local fishermen down here in Lake Okeechobee. He wins all the tournaments. Okay. What he does in his favorite deal is this popper. It's a medium-sized popper that has a 3/0 Spro hook on it. Now, this plug, this is the next size bigger frog. It's got a 4/0 hook on it. So what Gary does, he takes the hooks out of these bigger frogs and puts in the smaller frog. That's what I have here. If you notice, the hooks are kind of oversized for the plug, a little bit bigger than the plug itself. And it actually is a much better hookup ratio. You can see this one even better. See, the hook is bigger now than the body of the frog. But it still comes through the weeds pretty good, and you don't want to just throw it in the heaviest cover. It's more of an open water thing on the edge of the reeds, but still, that hooks more fish with a bigger hook. Okay, and I'm going to make a whole video on how to change hooks. That's not hard to do. But here what I've done, I've got my frogs all ready to go. I put talcum powder or baby powder on them. I've changed my hooks, put the bigger hooks on, put it on a nice clean box, and I have a magic marker that I'm looking for right now. I'm going to mark on the magic marker. I'm going to mark exactly what it is. For example, I had traps and medium divers. I'm going to have all these boxes marked in a proper way, so when I'm looking in my box, I can now see, well, hey, I got everything I need. It's all laid out in line. I can see exactly what they are. The box is clean and clear, and I can see exactly what's in there. Hey, I'm ready to go fishing. So that's my spring cleanup, and there's plenty more lures to cover. Hey, for today's YouTube video, we've done enough. Hey, thanks for subscribing, and boy, I tell you, you guys have really been a support. I have a lot of subscribers now, and my advertisers are real happy, and it's a great deal. And I enjoy doing these videos. You know what? I'm an old-time fisherman. I've been fishing the tournaments for I don't know, 40 or 50 years. So I know a thing about fishing. Don't get me wrong. I probably know more about it than I could fish myself. I used to be able to be just really on the top of the game, but you know, heck, I'm an old man now. But I enjoy teaching you guys, and if you listen, I think I can help you out. But thanks again for watching, and we'll see you again soon.